Hey everybody, how's it going? I'm going to try and make a quick little intro to canning video for you guys. So Auntie, I'm going to tag you in this because I know you were asking. So let me show you what you need to get started with canning because there are a couple of things. One, you need a big pot. I like to use a stock pot because I like to use big jars. So I'm going to show you, sorry. I can't really see them in the stock pot. Yeah, so I like to use the quart jars. And for pickles, I like to have the wide mouth. For everything else, I don't really care so much. But I do a lot of the quarts instead of the pints. So it's better to have the big one. You don't have to fill it up if you're going to use the smaller ones. Anyways, on to other stuff. So you need something to put in the bottom of your pot so that your jars are not sitting directly on the pot because that's a good way for them to break. So you can usually get a beginner's canning kit and it will have all the rest of this stuff in there for you. So they sell these rubber ones. And I really didn't care for this one. It didn't stay in place. It's movable, but like once you pull up a jar, it shrinks back. So it was a pain in the butt. I prefer the metal ones like this. This is actually a better one than what I got in there. But they usually have these handles. So you could put them, not trying to show, up and down out of your pot. I don't like to mess with that. Honestly, I usually just put them up against the side of the pot and I use one of these for getting all my jars in and out of my pots and moving them around while they're hot. So I don't really need the other one. It just splashes and is more of a problem for me. Okay, so other two things. This is a little magnet for the lids. And I'll show you why you need that magnet. That's some hot water. So that way you don't burn your hands. You don't want to be using tongs because you can mess up the lid and then mess up your seal. Like again, you can get this all in a beginner's kit. And then they send you one of these. Now you could use a butter knife, although some things you can't use aluminum in. So like if you're doing stuff with tomatoes, you don't want to be using an aluminum like butter knife or whatever. The reason why I like this better too is because you see those little notches on it. That is for determining your headspace. So I really need a jar. I got jars right here. I got jars everywhere. So let me show you. Let me flip my camera around. Okay, so each one of those is a 1/4 inch. So if you need a 1/2 inch of headspace, you could do that, and then you would know that you need to be to the bottom of where that is, or if it's 3/4 or if it's an inch. I don't think they're ever more than an inch. And last thing that you don't necessarily need this one, but it's very helpful, is a funnel. Like this funnel came in one of my starting kits, so like that's the size of a regular mouth jar, so it fits in there nicely. So that is what you need. Okay, now we're gonna get into just some basics on canning. Okay, so let's talk about pickles. Pickles are great. They're super easy. And even if you mess them up, because of like, it's pretty much all vinegar, they're usually okay. There's so much vinegar and salt that it does a really good job of preserving them. So if you make certain mistakes, they'll still be fine. And while this is not recommended by like USDA or I don't know, any of that stuff, I mean, a lot of times, like there's been plenty of times where I've done like pickles for my fridge. And so I haven't water bathed them. This is what I do is water bath canning. I do not pressure can. Those things terrify me. I had one for 5 years and I never used it once. I was too scared. So anyways, what was I saying? Yeah, so pickles are really hard to mess up, okay? Oh yeah, but like a lot of times I put the pickles, the hot broth, and it's a hot jar and hot lid, and it seals without water bathing. That is not recommended by health people. I'm just telling you what I've done in my experience. But I've also kept those ones in the fridge too, so like they were fine. First thing you want to do for your pickles, you're going to slice up your cucumbers, and I think they say you normally want to do about 1/8 of an inch. These are actually probably the best job that I've ever done slicing pickles. Normally they're all like really thick. So pretty proud of myself. It was pretty good. But so you're going to do them. You're going to do a layer of cucumber and then you're going to salt it. Now you need pickling salt. Pickling salt is not processed the same way as iodized salt, and that is something that you want for the canning. I don't really know why. I just know that you're supposed to get pickling salt. So you do a layer of the cucumber, you salt, you do a layer of the cucumber, you salt, you do a layer of the cucumber, and you salt. Now, these steps are not like an absolute to making pickles. I like to do this because what you're kind of doing is brining your cucumbers, and that salt is gonna pull the moisture out of the cucumber, and it's gonna give you a crispier pickle, okay? So now what I use for my pickles, Mrs. Wages. And she's got like 5, 6 different types of pickles. Pickle ones that you can do. She's got a whole bunch too. I tried her salsa. I love it. I might try tomato sauce eventually. Depends on how many tomatoes I end up with. I got a bunch of veggies and stuff that I want to use in my tomato sauce, so I'm not going to do it my first round. But anyways, so one of the great things about her stuff, you can see what you need. So for like this, You need 9 to 11 pounds of pickling cucumbers. If you don't have all that, don't worry. You can can the brine and use it later. And then you're going to use, so for the dill ones, it's usually vinegar and water. Bread and butter, it's usually just all vinegar. But yeah, so this one's vinegar and water, and this, and sometimes there's sugar in them. Now, I'll tell you, whenever it says sugar, like I think, maybe that was the bread and butter, that was like 6 cups of sugar or something. I think I did like a cup, which is probably more than I usually do. I think they're fine without the sugar. I do not suggest using these substitute sugars. I don't know, they always just taste really funny with the vinegar to me, so I have tried that. If you do, you have to use a very, very small amount. Okay, so you got this. It tells you how to make it. Basically, you just stir everything into a pot, you get it hot, and then this is good to go, right? So your jars got to be washed and sanitized. We have a dishwasher. Never used it once. We're not like dishwasher type people. So what I do is I boil my jars, and see, like right now I got 2 pickles going. See, I ran out of brine. I got to make some more brine. And then I got the 2 jars in there. So that's what I do to sanitize them. One, I keep them in there until I am ready to put my cucumbers and everything in. And I do my jars one at a time. Like I fill them one at a time. And the reason for that is it's going to keep the jar hot. It's going to keep everything in the jar hot. Like I don't have them sitting on my counter. I fill it. It goes in the can. Lids, I sanitize. I think you can see them also on the stovetop here. And so again, I just keep them, once they're good and sanitized, I turn the water down, and just so they're kind of staying hot. And like that one needs some more water in it. So I'm going to use this jar here and put some more water in it because it's evaporating out. That's the one thing with the lids you got to watch about having it too high, because you can't fit as much water in them. So you want to make sure it stays covered. I got my stuff all moved around because I was showing you guys. So I want to make sure those lids stay underwater. So that still was not enough water. Let me put a little more water in there. And then I'm going to show you the steps that I do for my pickles. Okay, so I am going to start with grabbing one of my hot sanitized jars. Now this is full of water, but I had took those other 2 jars out, so I need to keep this water in. So I'm just being careful to pour it out without burning myself. Okay, and by the time I pour out the water of that other one, it should be okay. Now I keep a dish towel to put my jars on because I don't want to put that super hot on this cold. I like a lot of garlic, so I like to put a nice heaping spoonful in the bottom of my jar. And I'm going to try putting a little red pepper flake in here too. I put some of this in the container, but see if it doesn't give them a little bit more zip. These are the kosher dill, so they're a little more bland. Now my cucumbers, my hands are clean and sanitized, like everything, so I'm literally just going to take handfuls and shove them in there. I try to be careful not to get anything on the limb or on the rim. That's goofy there. That's just pickle stuff on it. Pickles are fighting me now. Sometimes I spend a bunch of time like putting them in there, like stacking them and everything, but I don't know. Then I have a really hard time getting my little knife in to get the air bubbles out. So I feel like this is the best way, and I actually get a lot of cucumber in there this way. Now headspace for pickles is a 1/2 inch. So you just want to make sure that none of your cucumbers are going to be sticking up. Sorry, this is me shoving them in past that halfway mark. If they float up, not an issue. I gotta wash that. It's just salt on there, but still. Okay, so jar is still hot, so I'm still using my tongs because I don't want to burn myself and drop it. I'm going to put it over here. I use these plates to help just kind of keep everything clean because the turmeric tends to stain. So I'm going to put my funnel in. Now this is the size for a regular mouth, not a wide mouth, but it works. It is all good. So I'm going to ladle my hot liquid in, and I want to leave a 1/2 inch of headspace. And the nice thing about the Mrs. Wages too, which I'm sure other pickling stuff does, I just haven't used anything else, is it tells you how much headspace to leave and what the processing times are once you get it in the hot water. But like if you see, this is a little bit lighter than the other one. They also don't use as much vinegar in this one. Like the bread and butter is pretty much all vinegar. So instead of doing a 1-to-2 ratio on the water and vinegar, I just did a 1-in-1. So I like to play by my own rules. All right, so now that I've got that in there, I'm gonna get my air bubbles out, and I'm not worried too much on what the cucumbers are doing at this second. I will fix them in a second, but you just kind of go around and you're trying to get all those air bubbles. Air bubbles can capture bacteria and cause bacteria growth and stuff. So we'll see, I'm a little short there, so I'm gonna put a bit more brine in. And you don't want to have more or less headspace because it can not seal properly or it could just, it's not going to explode like a pressure cooker, but if there's too much in there, it'll kind of bubble out and you definitely won't get a good seal. So that's why it's important to pay attention to the headspace. I mean, if it's not exactly perfect, it's usually okay, but at least for pickles anyways. I try to make sure I'm pretty close. Dang it, still a little short there. All right, a little more. Just a little more. Okay. Now I like to use the extra crunch as well. So this one for quart, it is 1/4 of a, I can't get it in here. This is getting all yucky from the steam. And then after you get your brine and everything in, you just put it there. So I just put that and leave it there. Next step, you always want to make sure the lid is completely cleaned. So I got a paper towel that I wet with vinegar, and I'm going to wipe down the sides and then also the top, right? Because if you're not sealed, if it's not clean, again, bacteria and sealing issues. So I know it seems like a lot, but it's really not. Like, now I'm going to use my magnet. And again, this is like partially we're going to keep this clean this way. And usually I can pick them both up. Not on this one. So let me get that on there. Trying to make sure I keep that under part clean. I don't want to get anything on it. And let me get this. And you're just going to finger tighten it. Okay, and this is all still hot, so that's excellent. And get my little gripper things here and go back in. Now my water is not necessarily boiling right now because I don't like it boiling when I'm taking the jars in and out, because that's just a good way to burn myself. So I'm going to leave it like that until I'm done, and then I'll turn it up, and that's when my processing time starts. So you're gonna repeat that process until you're all done. So I'll come back in a second. Okay, so I got my last ones in there, and just make sure you watch, like when I say boiling, you see how it's bubbling now? Like that's okay. You do not want it to be a roiling boil, because that's how you can end up with broken glass, which again, it's contained, so not as big of a deal. But also you want to try not to have the jars touching each other. So I think that's it for as far as canning. So for the jars, so like I have these ones sitting here. This one I didn't can. I'm just letting it cool off before I get in the fridge. But you don't want to be messing with your jars once you pull them out. You want to give them 12 to 24 hours before you mess with them. And then you're going to check to see if they're sealed. So let me get another one so I could show you how to check. So here's some salsa I did the other day. Now in the middle, there's like a button, right? If it's up, then that means it didn't seal. So it should be down. So when you push, it shouldn't do anything, right? So this is good and sealed. If that's moving around on you, it's not sealed. Again, pickles, not the end of the world. You can put them in the fridge. You know, everything says a week, but we all know pickles are good much longer than that. You can always reprocess. So you have to heat everything back up. So it's kind of like redoing it all over again. But if you put a lot of time and energy into growing this stuff yourself, probably not going to want to just toss out all those vegetables. Couple last things. So I said about the 12 to 24 hours. Afterwards, they always say take off the rings. Now, when I putting stuff in the fridge to eat, I don't necessarily worry about that because we're going to be eating it. So I'm going to open it. Bless you, Grandma. Grandma is sneezing up a storm. But you do want to, like, if you're putting stuff on the shelf, you do want to make sure that it is, that you have the rings off, because if the seal fails, at a certain point, you're going to be able to tell. You don't want it getting all over your, pantry or whatever. Let's see, last things. Never stack these jars on top of each other. That is a way that you can ruin the seal. So, shelving appropriately. But yeah, never 2 jars on top of each other. Just one row. And then, so you can get labels. I like to get dissolvable labels. You can't just write with like a Sharpie or whatever. A lot of times, eventually it comes off, but not a ton. Sometimes I use jars to store stuff, so I don't like it when they have random stuff on it. So I get dissolvable stickers. These were some random ones I got off of Amazon. They did not stick on very well. So this year I tried these, and these have been really great. They stay on. So these, it was like almost immediately after I put them on, they were falling off. That's annoying. So I always put whatever it is and the date on there, just so I know, and so I can make sure that I'm rotating my food properly. So again, just wait the 12 to 24 hours before doing that. So like I'll come back tomorrow and check all these. There was another thing that I was going to say, and I just forgot it. Yeah, just remember not to label them until after they're cooled down. Again, if you're putting it on the lid, you don't want to mess up the seal because you're putting a stupid label on it. They don't always stick as well to the glass, so that's what I always just take the ring off and put them on the lids. So I think that's everything. You know, if you like, I tell everybody, don't try to jump in and do everything at once. Just pick one thing and try it. You know, what do you waste? You know, half a day maybe. You know, like I've spent 2 hours doing this, and it's way longer than it would have been had I not been making all these films and on a live on TikTok and talking to grandma. So pickles are pretty quick. If you don't like pickles, you know, pick salsa or something. You know, like you could get those packets. And if you're looking to do stuff now, you might want to just go online and look wherever you buy, because a lot of the stores sell out quick because it is canning season. So they're going through stuff a lot. And they often have a lot more stuff online that you can get that you don't necessarily find in the stores because maybe it just doesn't do well in your area or whatever. Anyways, like a forever long video. If you want a more in-depth about my pickle recipe or like a slower video, I do have all this stuff I put into playlists on my YouTube channel. Same name over there, Erie Nights. So it's going to be in the Kitchen and Cooking with Kat and John playlist. I have all my different cooking, canning stuff in there. So maybe I'll do salsa or something if I do another batch of that. I don't know that I'll have enough tomatoes to do that. But okay, I'm going to quit talking. Everybody have a great day. No.